Hi, I'm Susan Brubaker Knapp, and I'm a fiber artist. I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Susan, what drew you to making art quilts?
So I started out as a traditional quilter. I made my first quilt when I was like 10, and I was exposed to lots of different kinds of quilting. I love to do all kinds of quilting, but I think I really got interested in art quilting because I had a mentor named Nancy Cook when I lived in the Charlotte area. She drew me into the studio, Art Quilt Associates, and I actually attended my first Quilt National opening that was held in conjunction with the SACWA event. I had a couple of art quilters that I really admired, and a couple of them were in that show. I think it was the 2007 Quilt National, and so I got to meet Susan Shy, Lucky Shy, and who was just is my absolute hero, and to meet her at that exhibit. But I took a lot of different kinds of classes in different kinds of art quilting, and then eventually figured out what I loved the most and started doing it as my primary techniques.
So how has your art quilting evolved over time?
I think I've kind of narrowed down what I'm interested in, what I love the most. As far as subject matter, I tend to do a lot of botanicals. I occasionally will go off into portraiture or landscapes, but I usually come back to the things in nature that I love the most, especially very close-up images of things. Photography is really important in my process, and I take walks most days in my neighborhood, the same route, but I love nature, and I tend to try to get in really close on things and take like micro pictures or macro pictures, because I'm interested in the things that are really miraculous in our natural world that you really have to look for carefully. So my piece in Quilt National is about that as well.
Yeah, so let's go there. This piece is right behind you.
Yeah.
Made it into Quilt National 2025. So can you tell us the story behind it?
As most of my work does, it started with photography. So I take pictures wherever I go on my smartphone. And this one was, I brought some hydrangea blooms. You know, after they bloom and in the fall, they become almost skeletal. They turn those deeper hues of purple and blue. And the blooms themselves had been, I think these were blooms that had been out for a couple of years in the elements. I brought them into my house, and I put them in these antique purple bottles that I collect. And I took photos because you could see all the beautiful purples and blues from the bottles coming through the blooms. So I had taken a whole bunch of these photos. I abstracted it a little bit, and I printed on with spoonflower onto the fabric. But then before I printed it at spoonflower, I sucked a lot of the color out, and then when I painted it, I put the color back in. So this piece has been painted with acrylic textile paints and markers, both brushes and with markers filled with acrylic paint, to change the colors and to add lines. There's some areas where there's, if I can find it, a lot of drawn lines on the piece. And so I could put the color where I wanted it to be. And I love these colors anyway, so I had a lot of fun changing the color and making it beautiful.
So did you face any challenges while making this quilt?
Yes. The first one was probably that it has all these little tiny areas. So see all these little areas in the skeletal bloom. So every time you quilt inside those, you have to jump across to the next area. There's thousands of them. So lots of starting and stopping, which is not my favorite thing. I like to go fast. So I had to quilt within those little areas, form a stitch heavily to make basically a knot, and then jump across to the other areas. So that was the biggest challenge with it. And I also did, I drew lines, I painted, I kept changing the color balance. I'd stand back and look at it and add more of one color or another in different areas. But it was challenging to quilt it.
Can you tell us, what does Quilt National mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. I view it as the most prestigious art quilting show, at least in the country, maybe in the world. And when I started art quilting about 2005, I went to that 2007 event, and at that, it was an opening. I was so blown away, and I decided it was one of my life goals to get into Quilt National. So I think I entered maybe 4 or 5 times before I got in the exit. I think I was in the 2000 and which one is this? This is 2025. I was in 2023. That was the first one I got into. The other thing that's wonderful about Quilt National is you really feel like you've become part of a sorority, a fraternity of really great art quilters. It's like I've made it now to get in. And Quilt National and the Dairy Barn make the artists feel so special because you get a little swag bag and there's this special dinner. And when you go and you're amongst all these people who are names that you know as an art quilter, it just feels really good to be part of the party.
Where can they find you online?
My website is the best bet. It's www.susanbrubakernap.com, so my full name.com. And I'm also on both Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. And I do have a blog that I still blog on, and you can find that on a link to that on my website.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for sharing your Quilt National story with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.